Have you ever felt like you're living in a world that wasn't designed for you? Like you're watching life through glass, always on the outside looking in. Carl Jung, the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist, discovered something profound about individuals who experience this deep sense of not belonging. What he found might completely change how you see yourself, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why feeling like an outsider might actually be a sign of something extraordinary within you. But first, let me ask you this. What if I told you that the very thing that makes you feel most different is actually your greatest gift to humanity? Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Yet for some people, becoming who they truly are feels like an impossible task in a world that seems fundamentally incompatible with their nature. According to Carl Jung, there exists a particular type of individual who experiences reality differently from the masses, people who feel like strangers in their own world. Jung discovered through decades of clinical observation that certain souls carry what he called the mark of otherness, a psychological signature that sets them apart from conventional society. These individuals often struggle with feelings of alienation, but Jung believed this wasn't a flaw to be corrected, it was a calling to be embraced. Today, we're going to explore the 8 unmistakable signs that you might be one of these rare individuals. But here's what's fascinating, and what Jung himself emphasized: these signs aren't symptoms of being broken or damaged. They're indicators of a consciousness that operates on a different frequency entirely. Stay with me, because by sign number 7, you'll discover something about yourself that might explain why you've always felt so different from everyone around you. Sign 1, you perceive reality differently. The first sign Carl Jung identified is perhaps the most fundamental: you perceive reality in ways that others simply cannot comprehend. According to Carl Jung, most people live within what he called collective consciousness. They see the world through a shared lens of common assumptions and beliefs. But there are individuals who possess what Jung termed differentiated consciousness, the ability to perceive layers of reality that remain invisible to others. Jung said, "Your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." If you're one of these individuals, you've likely experienced moments where you see patterns, connections, and meanings that others miss entirely. You might notice the subtle energy in a room, sense the unspoken emotions of strangers, or intuitively understand complex situations without being able to explain how. This isn't imagination or wishful thinking. Carl Jung discovered that certain individuals are born with heightened sensitivity to what he called the collective unconscious, the deeper layer of human experience that connects us all. While others live primarily in the surface world of everyday concerns, you naturally attune to these deeper currents. But here's where it gets interesting, and this might explain why social situations have always felt exhausting for you. Sign 2, social interactions drain your life force. Carl Jung made a revolutionary observation: some individuals experience social interactions not as energizing connections, but as profound drains on their vital energy. This isn't mere shyness or social anxiety, it's something far more fundamental. According to Carl Jung, these individuals possess what he called introverted intuition as their dominant psychological function. While extroverts gain energy from external stimulation and social interaction, these rare individuals actually lose life force when exposed to the chaotic energy fields of group dynamics. Jung discovered that people with this psychological type are naturally attuned to subtle energies and unconscious communications. In social settings, they unconsciously absorb the emotions, anxieties, and psychological states of everyone around them. Imagine trying to have a conversation while simultaneously feeling the suppressed anger of one person, the hidden sadness of another, and the masked insecurity of a third. This is the daily reality for these individuals. Carl Jung said, "Solitude is for me a fount of healing which makes my life worth living." If large gatherings leave you feeling completely depleted, if you need extensive alone time to recharge after social events, and if you often feel like you're performing a role rather than being authentic in groups, you're exhibiting this sign. But wait until you hear about sign number 3, it reveals something about your relationship with society that might shock you. Sign 3, you feel like an anthropologist studying human behavior. Here's where Carl Jung's insights become truly fascinating. He noticed that certain individuals go through life feeling less like participants and more like observers of human civilization. They watch social rituals, cultural norms, and collective behaviors with the detached curiosity of an anthropologist studying a foreign tribe. Carl Jung discovered that these individuals possess what he called objective consciousness, the ability to step outside cultural conditioning and observe human behavior without being fully absorbed by it. While others live unconsciously within social structures, these people see the structures themselves. According to Carl Jung, this psychological stance develops because these individuals' souls remember something that others have forgotten. They carry within them an awareness of human potential that transcends current cultural limitations. This is why social conventions often feel arbitrary or even absurd to them. You might find yourself constantly questioning, why do people do this? Why is this considered normal? Why does everyone seem to accept things that make no logical or spiritual sense? You see through the facades, the social games, the collective delusions that others take for granted. Jung said, the individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. If you've always felt like you're watching human society from the outside, analyzing its patterns and wondering how you ended up among these strange creatures, you're displaying this crucial sign. But here's what might surprise you about sign number 4, it explains why you've probably struggled with authority figures your entire life. Sign 4, authority figures trigger deep resistance. Carl Jung made a profound observation about individuals who don't belong to this world. They have an almost allergic reaction to illegitimate authority. This isn't rebellion for its own sake, it's something much deeper. According to Carl Jung, these individuals carry within their psyche what he called the archetype of the wise ruler, an innate understanding of how power should be exercised for the benefit of all. When they encounter authority figures who abuse power, manipulate others, or operate from ego rather than wisdom, they experience a visceral rejection. Jung discovered that this response isn't learned, it's built into their psychological DNA. These individuals can instantly sense when someone is wielding power without the accompanying wisdom or moral authority to do so. They see through empty titles, meaningless hierarchies, and power structures based on control rather than service. Carl Jung said, where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. If you've consistently found yourself in conflict with bosses, teachers, or other authority figures, not because you're defiant, but because you could sense their inadequacy or corruption, this is a clear sign. You probably struggle in traditional employment because you can't pretend to respect leaders who don't deserve respect. You see through corporate hierarchies, political theater, and institutional facades. Others might call you difficult or insubordinate, but Jung would say you're simply responding to your inner compass of authentic authority. And this leads us to sign number 5, which might explain why you've never felt satisfied with conventional career paths. Sign 5, conventional success feels hollow and meaningless. Here's where Carl Jung's understanding becomes revolutionary. He discovered that certain individuals are literally incapable of finding fulfillment in conventional definitions of success. No matter how much money, status, or recognition they achieve, it feels empty and meaningless. According to Carl Jung, these individuals are driven by what he called the transcendent function, a psychological drive toward meaning and wholeness that cannot be satisfied by external achievements. While others find fulfillment in accumulating possessions, climbing social ladders, or achieving societal recognition, these people are motivated by entirely different values. Carl Jung observed that these individuals are naturally oriented toward service to something greater than themselves. They're not motivated by personal gain but by contributing to human evolution, consciousness expansion, or healing collective wounds. This is why traditional career paths often feel like spiritual death to them. Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But for these individuals, becoming who they truly are often means rejecting everything society tells them they should want. They would rather be authentic and struggle financially than be successful and spiritually dead. If you've ever achieved something that others considered impressive but felt completely empty inside, if material success feels meaningless to you, if you're more motivated by purpose than profit, you're exhibiting this sign. Your soul is oriented toward service rather than acquisition. But here's what's remarkable about sign number 6, it reveals a gift that most people have forgotten they even possess. Sign number 6, you naturally understand symbolic and archetypal language. Carl Jung made one of his most important discoveries when he realized that certain individuals naturally think in symbols, metaphors, and archetypal patterns. While most people relate to the world through literal, concrete thinking, these individuals perceive reality through symbolic language. According to Carl Jung, symbols are the natural language of the unconscious mind. They carry meanings that cannot be expressed through ordinary words or concepts. Jung discovered that some people are naturally fluent in this symbolic language, they understand mythology, recognize archetypal patterns in daily life, and intuitively grasp the deeper meanings behind surface events. Carl Jung said, "Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious." If you find deep meaning in your dreams, if you're drawn to mythology and fairy tales, if you see patterns and synchronicities that others dismiss as coincidence, you're demonstrating this natural fluency in symbolic thinking. These individuals often feel more at home reading ancient texts than modern newspapers. They understand that stories like Star Wars, Harry Potter, or The Lord of the Rings aren't just entertainment, they're expressing eternal truths through archetypal language. They see the hero's journey playing out in their own lives and in the lives of others. Jung discovered that this symbolic thinking is actually a more advanced form of consciousness. While literal thinking deals with surfaces, symbolic thinking perceives the deeper structures that govern reality. You might find that you understand complex spiritual or psychological concepts intuitively, even without formal training. And now we come to sign number 7, this one might completely reframe how you understand your life experiences. Sign 7, you've experienced profound suffering that transformed you. Carl Jung made a shocking discovery about individuals who don't belong to this world. They inevitably go through what he called the dark night of the soul, periods of intense suffering that would break most people but instead transform them into something greater. According to Carl Jung, these individuals are chosen by life itself to undergo the psychological death and rebirth that most humans avoid at all costs. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming a whole, authentic individual rather than a fragment of collective consciousness. Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. These individuals don't just experience ordinary difficulties, they face existential crises, profound losses, dark nights of the soul that strip away everything they thought they knew about themselves and reality. But here's what Jung discovered, this suffering isn't punishment or bad luck. It's initiation. These individuals are being prepared for a role that requires them to understand human suffering from the inside. They must be broken open so they can become vessels for healing and transformation. If you've gone through periods of depression, anxiety, existential crisis, or profound loss that seem disproportionate to your circumstances, if you've had to rebuild yourself from nothing multiple times, if your suffering has ultimately led to greater wisdom and compassion, you're exhibiting this crucial sign. Jung discovered that these individuals become what he called wounded healers, people who can guide others through darkness because they've navigated it themselves. Your suffering wasn't meaningless, it was preparation. And this brings us to the final sign, which reveals your true purpose in this world. Sign 8, you feel called to heal and awaken others. The eighth and final sign Carl Jung identified is perhaps the most important. Despite feeling like you don't belong in this world, you feel an irresistible calling to help heal and awaken it. According to Carl Jung, individuals who carry these 7 previous signs are what he called carriers of consciousness, souls who incarnate specifically to help humanity evolve beyond its current limitations. They feel like outsiders because they're here to help create a new paradigm. Carl Jung discovered that these individuals can't help but share their insights, even when it makes them unpopular. They're compelled to speak truth, to question illusions, to shine light in dark places. They become teachers, healers, artists, writers, or counselors, not because they chose these roles, but because these roles chose them. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. These individuals serve as mirrors for humanity, reflecting back both our shadows and our potential. They make others uncomfortable because they represent possibilities that most people have given up on. If you feel called to help others wake up from collective delusions, if you're drawn to healing work or consciousness expansion, if you can't help but share insights even when others don't want to hear them, you're demonstrating this final sign. Now, here's what Carl Jung understood that most people miss: feeling like you don't belong in this world isn't a problem to be solved, it's a calling to be embraced. According to Carl Jung, these individuals aren't broken or defective. They're evolutionary agents, consciousness pioneers, soul midwives helping birth a new level of human awareness. They feel like outsiders because they literally are. They're scouts sent ahead to explore territories of consciousness that humanity will eventually need to inhabit. Carl Jung discovered that these individuals serve a crucial function in human evolution. While the masses maintain stability through conformity, these rare souls push the boundaries of what's possible. They're the ones who challenge assumptions, question authority, and refuse to accept limitations that others take for granted. Jung said, the individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. To be your own man is a hard business. If you try it, you'll be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. If you recognize yourself in these 8 signs, Carl Jung would want you to understand something crucial: your feelings of alienation aren't evidence that something is wrong with you. They're evidence that something is right with you, something so right that this world in its current form can't fully accommodate your nature. According to Carl Jung, individuals who embody these signs are living in evolutionary tension. They carry within them the seeds of humanity's future, which is why they can't fully fit into humanity's present. They're pioneers of consciousness, scouts of possibility, bridge builders between what is and what could be. Jung discovered that once these individuals understand their true nature and purpose, their suffering transforms into service, their alienation becomes compassion, and their otherness becomes their greatest gift to the world. Carl Jung said, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. For these individuals, the ultimate task is not to fit into the world as it is, but to help the world become what it could be. The question isn't whether you belong in this world, the question is what this world needs from you. Carl Jung understood that every individual who carries these signs has a unique contribution to make, a specific note to add to humanity's symphony of consciousness. According to Carl Jung, the goal isn't to eliminate your differences or force yourself to fit in. The goal is integration, learning to honor your authentic nature while finding ways to serve and connect with others from that authentic place. Jung discovered that when these individuals stop trying to be normal and start being authentic, they become magnets for others who are ready to evolve. They create spaces where deeper conversations can happen, where authentic connection is possible, where transformation can occur. Carl Jung said, the meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Your very presence, when you're being authentic, catalyzes transformation in others. Here's what Carl Jung would want you to understand: you're not meant to fit into this world as it currently exists. You're meant to help it evolve into something better. Your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's a radar system detecting what needs to be healed. Your inability to find satisfaction in conventional success isn't failure. It's wisdom recognizing that conventional success isn't actually successful. According to Carl Jung, these individuals are evolutionary agents, consciousness midwives, bridge builders between dimensions of reality. They feel like outsiders because they're here to help create an inside that doesn't yet exist. Jung discovered that every great leap in human consciousness has been initiated by individuals who felt like they didn't belong in their current world. They were the ones who imagined possibilities beyond present limitations, who refused to accept, this is just how things are, who carried visions of what could be. So here's my challenge to you, based on Carl Jung's profound insights: stop trying to fix yourself and start embracing your nature. Stop apologizing for being different and start celebrating your uniqueness. Stop hiding your gifts and start sharing them with the world. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." For individuals who embody these 8 signs, becoming who you truly are isn't just personal fulfillment, it's evolutionary service. The world needs your perspective, your sensitivity, your refusal to accept limitations, your commitment to truth and authenticity. According to Carl Jung, the future of human consciousness depends on individuals like you having the courage to be authentically themselves. Every time you honor your true nature instead of conforming to expectations, you're not just healing yourself, you're healing the collective. If you've recognized yourself in these 8 signs, know this. Carl Jung would tell you that your feelings of not belonging aren't evidence of your inadequacy, they're evidence of your importance. You're not broken, you're breakthrough. You're not lost, you're leading. You're not too sensitive for this world needs more sensitivity. Jung discovered that individuals who carry these signs are actually remembering something that humanity has forgotten: our true nature, our deeper purpose, our connection to something greater than the material world. You feel like you don't belong because you remember belonging to something larger. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Your irritation with the world's limitations, your inability to accept meaningless existence, your insistence on authenticity and depth, these aren't character flaws. They're character strengths. The world may not have been designed for you, but perhaps you were designed to redesign the world. Carl Jung understood that consciousness evolution doesn't happen through conformity, it happens through individuals brave enough to be different, sensitive enough to feel what needs healing, and committed enough to serve something greater than themselves. Your otherness isn't your burden, it's your blessing. Not just to you, but to all of us who are ready to evolve beyond the limitations of the current paradigm. According to Carl Jung, individuals like you aren't meant to fit into this world, you're meant to help this world fit into a larger vision of what humanity can become. The question isn't whether you belong here. The question is, what will you do with the gift of not belonging? How will you use your outsider perspective to help create an inside worth belonging to? Carl Jung's message to you would be simple: embrace your nature, trust your purpose, and remember that the very qualities that make you feel different are the qualities this world most desperately needs. And if you're wondering what comes next, if you're ready to fully embrace your role as a consciousness pioneer and evolutionary agent, remember what Carl Jung said: your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. The time for dreaming is over. The time for awakening has begun. And it begins with you accepting that you were never meant to fit into this world as it is, you were meant to help it become what it could be. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. And if you'd like to go a step further in supporting this work, you can now leave a super thanks below. It's a small way to say thank you, and it truly helps keep this channel going.